What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome back to the NCPL. This is going to be week 2. We are facing Sam, coach of the Northants Ninetales, as you can see on screen below. Now, before I get into this, I do want to say that the team this week is going to be quite a bit different. Sam is easily one of the most difficult opponents I've ever gone up against and will go up against. I'm also feeling a little bit under the weather, so forgive my voice or, I don't know, coughs or whatnot, or all that lovely stuff that comes with winter colds, but yeah, I always like to say that Sam is one of my favorite opponents. I absolutely love every single battle. I know that it's going to be a great battle. He's a great battler, great team builder, really brings out a lot of creativity, knows how to use it, and yeah, he's a good friend, and it's a lot of fun battling him. So I really look forward to this week in particular, and I do hope that later on in the season we do get to meet in playoffs at some point. So yeah, best of luck to you, Sam, before we hop into this, and let's talk about his team. His team is so threatening. So threatening. He's got this cool logo over here, but taking a closer look at his team in its entirety, look at these threats. So much offense. I was so shocked because Sam, like myself actually, is usually very into balance and bulky offense, or at least he was as of a couple seasons ago. It was probably with, was it the SFL? Yeah, I think it was more so with the SFL, and then recently with NCPL Season 3, he's been getting more and more offensive with his teams, and this is the epitome of it. Look at this. This is so much offense. You got Mega Sharpedo, Tapu Koko, Lucario, Landorus Eye, Darmanitan, Salamence, Snorlax, Yanmega, Nihilego, Kingdra, Alolan Raichu. We're talking a lot of offense, and like Jirachi is like mixed bulk, but like can be very offensive as well. The only ones that really aren't are Pelipper and Whimsicott. So yeah, a lot of offense, very uncharacteristic for at least the Sam that I'm most familiar with, who likes the sort of long, steady game that I like to play as well too. But looking at his team, let's get into the threats he actually does have. So first off is Mega Sharpedo, which is definitely a threat. Base 140 attack, but boosted by Strong Jaw. So moves like Crunch, Psychic Fangs, they're going to be getting that extra boost from Strong Jaw, which I think is 2 or 3? I think it might be 1.3 times boost, kind of like Tough Claws. So definitely hitting hard. I think Mega Sharpedo gets Liquidation now too, which makes it that much scarier. It's also got great coverage in Poison Jab, so it can hit the fairies that oftentimes want to come in on it. And yeah, overall threat in the rain, of course, Liquidation / Waterfall are going to be doing a lot more damage. Yeah. Next up is Tapu Koko, his Z captain. Tapu Koko, one of the mons that I actually consider drafting myself. Definitely a threat, one of the best Pokemon in League format in my opinion. It's got a great speed tier, it's got decent special attack, but the main thing is it has access to Electric Surge. It's so fast and get really powerful Volt Switches, Thunderbolts off, etc. It has a great moveset too, with even being able to run like Light Screen, Taunt, Roost. It can run a physical set with Wild Charge, Brave Bird. It's got Dazzling Gleam, of course, too, and you can run both U-Turn and Volt Switch. It's really a great mon, to say the least. You can run an effective Life Orb set, Specs set, Shokaberry set, and it's his Z-mon, so he can do a lot with it. And because he has Rain on his team, he can run Thunder. He can run Thunder Tapu Koko, so really hitting hard, which is definitely a threat. Next up is Jirachi, a mon that I actually used in my very first season in League format, and I really liked. It's very versatile. It's, got a great typing for both defensive and offensive type moves. It's really annoying, of course, with, Iron Head flinches and Serene Grace in a nutshell. So I'm not a big fan of that hacks aspect of it, but it is part of a strategy that can be incorporated, right? Like it's a good Pokemon for a reason, and if you need to get those Spit F drops, if you need to get those flinches and probabilities working in your favor, like it's a reasonable thing to do. So I can't get too mad about it. It is just frustrating at times though. It can run bulkier sets, it can run Scarf. Those are probably the most common, I would say. But next up is Pelipper, typically just range support. It typically runs defensive set with Damp Rock or Leftovers, where it's setting up the rain. It's running Scald, U-turning out of there, maybe Hurricane, probably Defog, and probably Roost. Otherwise, you occasionally see Choice Scarf or Choice Specs Pelipper, just because it has an okay special attack and in the rain with the stab boost. It's very much like Tapu Koko outside of rain and in electric terrain, right? Getting a stab boost on your water type moves in addition to the extra rain boost, slap a Specs on it, and those Skulls, those Hydro Pumps are doing quite a bit of damage. So that's what you see with it most of the time. Next up is Lucario. Lucario. I always dread going against Lucario for the same reason I dread going against Infernape. It's very mixed offense. It has access to Nasty Plot and Swords Dance. It's got Priority, Stab, and Bullet Punch. It has Aura Sphere in close combat. It has Iron Tail and Flash Cannon. It has Dark Pulse. It has Earthquake. It's got great move coverage, and it's a double threat. It can be specially or physically threatening, so it's always really difficult to prepare for. Next up is Whimsicott. Whimsicott's just annoying. That's really all it comes down to. It's got a decent defensive typing, and it's got great moveset to take advantage of moves like Leech Seed and Taunt and Encore and Substitute and Synthesis and all of those annoying little moves like that. So I'm not a big fan of going up against Whimsicott. It has more recently in lower tiers started running Specs. Specs Moonblast and Specs Giga Drain, I think. So there's that. It can run U-Turn and be a bit more offensive, but typically you see a Prankster bulky support set. Next up is Landorus Eye. One thing worth noting is this is not a Sheer Force Landorus Eye, which is super strong. You still have a Life Orb, Sheer Force boosted special type attacks. Oof, putting in a lot of work. Imagine Nidoking with 20 base power more special attack. I think that's the difference. But regardless, typically you'd see like a Choice Scarf set, maybe a Life Orb set with Earthquake, Stone Edge, U-Turn, and maybe Sludge Wave or a Hidden Power type move. It's good. It's good. That's kind of what it comes down to. It can hit really hard on the offensive side, and it hits one of those nice speed tiers that I personally like to hit as well. Next up is Darmanitan. Darmanitan is another big threat. If you've seen my previous seasons, you know I dreaded going up against this thing when Manu had it. It's got a massive base 140 attack with access to Sheer Force. So when you've got a Stab Flare Blitz, Sheer Force boosted off a base 140 attack, sometimes even slapping a band on that, that's putting in a lot of damage. So this thing is definitely a threat. Definitely can straight up sweep teams. So definitely got to watch out for that. As far as coverage goes and other type moves, typically U-Turn, Earthquake, Stone Edge. I think, does it get Superpower? I don't think it gets Superpower. And those are typically the moves it runs. Next up is his second Z-Mon, his Z secondary, his offensive Z move Mon, which is going to be Salamence. Salamence. Scary threat, especially as a Z-Mon. I don't know if you guys remember when the Sun Moon meta first came out in these Z crystals, Mence was running everywhere. It's got Stab, Supersonic, Sky Strike coming off a base 135 attack, and what's really cool is the Moxie boost. You can Dragon Dance up once, and you're pretty much guaranteed a KO with Supersonic Sky Strike, or maybe even Devastating Drake, and that gets you another +1 boost, and then you're sitting at +2, you're at Salamence, you're putting in a lot of work to say the least. So definitely a threat. I've used Salamence before. I don't like its speed tier. It can run a Defog, Defensive Roost, maybe even Wish Pass set, but typically you see Dragon Dance or Scarf. It can also run Mix, by the way, worth mentioning Earthquake, Fire Blast, and Draco Meteor. But next up is Snorlax. Snorlax is a bulky mon, but also a huge offensive threat. It is running around rampant with a Curse Lax set, typically running Curse, Sleep Talk, Rest, and Return, just because it really only needs that Stab, Return to put in a lot of work, and because it's so specially bulky and has a ridiculous HP stat, when you start boosting that defensive stat, it gets really difficult to break through. So if allowed the time to gain momentum, this Snorlax could be a problem. Next up is Yanmega. Yanmega is also a pretty hard-hitting mon. You usually slap a Specs on it, and with Tinted Lens, I think it doubles the damage of resisted hits, so basically negating resisted hits. And yeah, it's got Air Slash, it's got Bug Buzz. It can also run Speed Boost set with Life Orb, so it's getting faster and faster with every hit, and that's always threatening, so definitely not worth sleeping on. Next up is Nihilego. Nihilego, a mon that Sam has actually liked using, I think, quite a bit, or rather wanted to use a bit better, liked when he did use it effectively in his eyes, but didn't really take fully advantage of it and was trying to get a second go at it. It is definitely in a solid speed tier. It's got decent special bulk, and it's got great special attack with access to, or with the ability to boost that special attack with Beast Boost. A couple great stabs in Sludge Wave and Power Gem. I think it also gets Thunderbolt. It can also run, like an offensive lead with Stealth Rock and Toxic Spikes. So yeah, it's a good mon. It's definitely something worth, again, not sleeping on, like most of Sam's team. Next up is the Alolan Raichu. On its own, not too big of a threat. It can hit decently hard, but The real threat comes from Electric Terrain, giving it a boost to its electric type attacks and doubling its speed thanks to its ability Surge Surfer. Enough said. Similarly, we've got Kingdra, which in the rain has double speed thanks to Swift Swim, and has great mixed attack. Typically, Life Orb or Specs is thrown on it so that you get these stab, base 95, Specs, rain boosted Hydro Pumps from Kingdra, or you could get Draco Meteors or Ice Beams, or you could get Outrages. It's really difficult to tell. You could even get Dragon Dance in the rain Kingdra, which is interesting in and of itself. You get Manual Rain Kingdra. It's a scary mon, and it's definitely a rain abuser. So as you can see, Sam's team is very offensive. He's packing a lot of threats, a lot of mons that attack in a lot of different ways and under different modes, whether that's the terrain or the rain, and or both terrain, as it's called. So definitely a lot to prep for, and that's why I really had to think outside the box for this upcoming week. I definitely struggled a bit because I really had to step outside my comfort zone. We're going to be running, the first mon we've got here is actually going to be Tapu Bulu. So we're running Choice Banded Max Attack Adamant Tapu Bulu with speed like minus nature, which probably indicates something, right? I am actually going to be running more of a hyper offense with a very solid Trick Room component this week. And you're like, wait, Nick, why are you stepping outside your comfort zone against one of maybe the most difficult opponents you'll go against this entire season? And really, it just comes down to what's going to work, right? Like, I am comfortable with balance. I'm comfortable with bulky offense. I play best with bulky offense and balance, but I think that those styles just won't work against Sam's team. Sam's team can just brute force its way through any balanced team, in my opinion. Unless you have, even Stall to an extent, right? I think even Stall, he has a way to break through because of so many just naturally hard-hitting mons, and then also mons that can set up on Stally mons. So I really think you need to beat Sam's team with offense of your own. And as much as I don't like that, as much as I am nervous playing like that, I think it's what's necessary. So here I am. The first mon I wanted to use was Tapu Bulu because I looked at his team. Tapu Bulu 2-hit KOs every single thing on his team with Woodhammer except for Salamence. And that's assuming it's Intimidate. Isn't that crazy? And if it's not defensive Salamence after rocks, it probably does. Isn't that crazy? It puts in so much work. So once a Trick Room is up and I can get Tapu Bulu in, I just click Woodhammer and I just start destroying things. If rocks are up, things are just going to start dropping. And if, there's even a little bit of chip already, I can click Horn Leech and I can heal up. Superpower and Stone Edge are there for coverage moves if I really feel like it, but honestly, it's either going to be Horn Leech or Woodhammer. Maybe I don't want to take recoil and I need to do more damage than Horn Leech, so I go with Superpower or Stone Edge, but it's really going to be Woodhammer or Horn Leech. This is a mon that I get in and I just start clicking buttons, and his mons are just going to start dropping. Outside of Trick Room, though, it is a little bit difficult to set up with it. It's a little bit difficult to get it in. You might notice that he's got stuff like Jirachi, Sharpedo, which can run Poison Jab, Jirachi with Iron Head, obviously, Pelipper with Hurricane, Lucario with Flash Cannon, Landorus Eye with Sludge Wave, Darmanitan with Flare Blitz, Salamence with Supersonic Sky Strike or Aerial Ace, Yanmega with Bug Buzz / Air Slash, Nihilego with Sludge Wave, Kingdra potentially with Ice Beam. There's a lot of mons that are going to outspeed this and might even get a hit off before I can do damage outside of Trick Room, right? Some of those mons will KO me. Poison Jab from Mega Sharpedo, it's going to KO. Hurricane from Pelipper, it's probably going to KO. Sludge Wave from Landorus Eye, that's probably going to KO. Flare Blitz from Darmanitan, probably going to KO. Supersonic Sky Strike, probably going to KO. But there are some things that don't. I don't know if he's necessarily going to have Hurricane on Pelipper. I don't know if he's going to have Poison Jab on Mega Sharpedo. He might be tempted to run Psychic Fangs, Waterfall, Protect, Crunch. What are the other moves they typically run? There's one other coverage move it typically runs. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But regardless, he might not be running Poison Jab for whatever reason. There's a lot going on here, and I might not have to even take some of these hits from mons based on what they're running. Jirachi could be running Flash Cannon instead of Iron Head. And I also have a ton of HP investment. I've got a lot of HP. I actually live a Modest Specs Ice Beam from Kingdra. I live a lot of hits from Alolan Raichu. I live a lot of hits from Tapu Koko. I live Specs Hurricane from Pelipper. I live a lot of hits from Lucario. There's a lot going on here just in the HP department that enables me to at least live one hit. And when you've got a Choice Band Max Attack Adamant Horn Leech going off afterwards, which is probably knocking out whatever's inside, you're regaining 40 to 50% of your HP, and then you get a little grassy terrain boost too. So I'm not too worried. I just need to live one hit in order to get damage off / recover with Horn Leech outside of Trick Room. And in Trick Room, oh man, I don't have to take any hits in that. But yeah, so very excited to use Tapu Bulu. Hopefully it comes to fruition. It's just kind of ironic and poetic in that Sam also really wanted to use Banded Bulu when he had it, but didn't really get the chance to. So yeah, as you might expect, another Pokemon that's going to abuse Trick Room. We've got Reuniclus. Yeah, this is very straightforward. Max Special Attack, Life Orb, Max HP, hits hard. I wanted to smack something hard with Reuniclus. It's just kind of how it is. Reuniclus has a monstrous special attack stat when, you've got a Life Orb boosting it, and when you've got like a max special attack boosting nature, and you don't have to worry about recoil from Life Orb thanks to Magic Guard. You don't have to worry about getting poisoned thanks to Magic Guard. You don't have to worry about entry hazards wearing away at you thanks to Magic Guard. It's really, really hard hitting. Stab Psychic does so much. It knocks out it just straight up OHKOs a lot of his more frail mons after rocks, and it 2-KOs almost everything on his team. What it doesn't, Shadow Ball covers really well. And then the oddball situations, I chose Energy Ball. I did consider running Thunder because of the electric terrain potentially and the rain, but more often than not, I plan on having Grassy Surge up potentially, and that would boost the Energy Ball, and I don't have to worry about misses. And that's just kind of what it comes down to. But yeah, Psychic is 2-KOing almost everything on his team. What it's not, Shadow Ball is, and then the one exception I think is Sharpedo. And Energy Ball in grassy terrain is going to get nice coverage anyways and have that grassy terrain boost. So that's the idea here. Trick Room is so that it can manually set up its own Trick Room, doesn't have to be in Trick Room from another Mon on the team, and it can support other Mons on the team with its own Trick Room. So yeah, max HP, it's naturally bulky, it can usually tank at least one hit, get up the Trick Room, and spend 3 turns just smacking Mons really hard. And if it dies before then, I don't manage to knock something out and it knocks me out, then all I have to worry about is, then I can just bring in Tapu Bulu and take advantage of the rest of the Trick Room with Tapu Bulu. So again, this Trick Room team is really helpful in that all of his Mons are really fast, right? So Reuniclus is going to be underspeeding almost everything on his team. I think even Snorlax. I think it might speed tie with Snorlax if he's minimum speed Snorlax. Maybe after a curse, Snorlax will probably underspeed me. But yeah, with such a hyper offensive team, I needed to smack his team harder and before he could hit my team. And so my Mons are EV'd and built to live at least one hit and then make it so that we can go first and then knock out his Mons. So very much a shootout, right? Hyper offense versus hyper offense. Next up, we've got Bronzong, the one really defensive Mon on this team. It's max Spadef, and that's mostly to deal with Tapu Koko in particular. But really, this Mon is here to get up rocks and go for Trick Room. Maybe do a little bit of damage with something like Gyro Ball or Earthquake, which in general has good neutral coverage against most of his team. And yeah, that's kind of it. When you look at his team, it's a good switch into certain Mons. I'm running Heatproof because with grassy terrain up, I don't need to worry as much about Earthquake, and in the rain, I don't have to worry about fire type moves as much. So I am running Heatproof in the event that he doesn't bring rain, because grassy terrain is more in my control if I need, Bronzong to live a hit or something like that. So yeah, this will also help out with Darmanitan in particular. I could get Earthquake damage off on it, Fire Blast from Cements. Basically, I'm not running Toxic too because I'm not planning on having a very long battle, and all I want to do is get, a good 30-40% off on something, which Gyro Ball does to most things, and if not, Earthquake usually does, just to put it in range of something like a Psychic or a Wood Hammer for my other Mons to clean up. So that's the mentality there. It's, again, the EVs are there to deal with his special attackers like Pelipper, potentially Lucario, Tapu Koko, Yanmega even to an extent, very much so Nihilego. Definitely going to help out with Nihilego and Alolan Raichu and Kingdra, which are generally some of the more scary threats for my team. So yeah, set up Trick Room, set up Rocks, get a little bit of chip. Next up, now we're switching modes. We've got Choice Scarf Garchomp. I wanted to have, a couple different modes, right? I have some Mons that hit really, really hard and in Trick Room will underspeed a lot of his team, basically all of his team, and just 2-hit KO every single thing on his team, if not OHKO most things on his team after rocks. On the other hand, I do have some fast offensive mons myself, right, that I might want to bring to outspeed a lot of his threats. I don't want to be solely reliant on Trick Room. I considered Porygon 2. I didn't end up bringing Porygon 2. But I wanted to have an in Trick Room mode, and I want to have an out of Trick Room mode. But either way, I wanted hard-hitting mons that will hit him before he can hit me. And that's the ideology behind Scarf Chomp. Earthquake, Outrage, Dragon Claw, Poison Jab. In a nutshell, looking at his team, it's either Earthquake or Outrage that's going to be doing damage to just about everything on his team. He doesn't have a great Steel-type Pokemon to take on Garchomp, which can, Earthquake, of course. The one mon that really takes both of those stabs on is Whimsicott, which is why I'm running Poison Jab. And outside of that, I don't really need any other attacks. I have just enough speed to outspeed Landorus I, and yeah, Earthquake could definitely sweep late game. Outrage could, just really do a ton of damage to something, right? If he's got some sort of a wall that I need weakened for Reuniclus to sweep through his team, you know what, I don't care if I lock myself in Outrage. Whatever Steel type, if you got a bulky Jirachi, if it's taking 2 Outrages, it's going to be in range of Shadow Ball afterwards, right? Even if it's a bulky max HP variant. So that's kind of the mentality with Scarf Chomp. Next up is Raikou. We're running Electrium Z Raikou here. This mon was one of the more difficult mons to EV and finesse with the EV spread and all. I wanted something that was even faster, right? I wanted something that could outspeed a lot of his fastest mons. The only mons that are outspeeding it are Tapu Koko and Whimsicott. And I wanted something that could also benefit from the electric terrain, right? If he brings E-Terrain, my Raikou's T-Bolt and Volt Switch are boosted by an extra 50%. And when you've got max special attack, even if it's coming off base 115 special attack, it's doing a lot of damage. That's going to be stronger than a Tapu Koko's Thunderbolt, right? Raikou has a higher base special attack. And I have just enough speed to outspeed the relevant threats. The rest goes into HP to potentially tank hits a little bit better. I'm running Electrium Z because it just nukes things. I was considering running Thunder in the event he brings Rain, but I didn't want to rely on it. I didn't want to have to go for Electrium Z Volt Switch. So Electrium Z Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt gets all of the relevant 2-hit KOs. I think I might have to adjust my EV spread because I might have mixed it up, and I don't think I need all of the special attack I have. But regardless, really good 3-hit KOs for neutral. Thunderbolts, and in E-Terrain 2-hit KOs with Thunderbolts. And a lot of things die, especially in electric terrain, from a Gigavolt Havoc after rocks, just straight up, even if resisted. So Raikou can put in a lot of work if given electric terrain, and can just straight up nuke things with Gigavolt Havoc, which again, a lot of times will help set up for something like Scarf Chomp or Reuniclus, where I just click one Trick Room, and whatever, one mod he was relying on to take it on is going to be just knocked out by Psychic or Shadow Ball at that point, or is now in Hornleech range, so I don't have to knock myself out with Woodhammer recoil. That's the mentality here, right? Is have a lot of mons that can punch holes in his team for 1 or 2 of my mons to just sweep. So Raikou can definitely do that. It can also gain momentum, right? Volt Switch is really important. I need to find opportunities for Reuniclus to set up Trick Room, or I can get Tapu Bulu in on the few mons it can come in on, right? Snorlax comes in all day on Raikou because of its special defense and HP stat. I Volt Switch, I get a little bit of chip, I go into Tapu Bulu, and Superpower is OHKOing Snorlax. Woodhammer is OHKOing Snorlax. There is a lot, and then he's got to basically pick a sacrifice, right? He's got to pick him on to sack at that point. So yeah, Raikou is really helpful this time around. Shadow Ball is there for Jirachi in particular, and for some neutral coverage on other mons, but it's not really what I'm planning on going for. I mean, it'll knock out Raichu, but also not too worried about it. And then HP Ice is for Landorus I and potentially Whimsicott too, though Gigavolt Havoc is still doing a ton of damage to Whimsicott. So that's why those moves are there. And then lastly, we have Mega Scizor. Again, we are not running a defensive set. We are running a not max attack but adamant Mega Scizor, where you'll notice the EV spread is really odd here. It's basically I'm EV'd with enough HP and defense and SPDF to live the important hits. I live a Flare Blitz from Darmanitan in the rain. I live a Specs Hydro Pump from Kingdra, or from Modest Kingdra in the rain. I live Thunders from Tapu Koko. I live Supersonic Sky Strike, I think, from Mence. I'm trying to remember what else I accounted for. Fire Punch. I think I live like 2 Fire Punches from +1 lax in the rain. Something like that. It's been a while since I've actually team built, but I have some really important... There are a lot of important calcs that went into this very specific defense, SPDEF, and HP spread, and same goes for the attack. At +2, I 2-hit KO all of the relevant threats after rocks. At neutral, I'm getting the OKOs on the things I do want to OKO, like Whimsicott, unless he is a very bulky set. So again, just tailoring the EVs, I only need what I need, right? Like, it's not going to matter if I invest another 100 EVs in attack to do 2% more to something that I'm already going to be OKOing 100% of the time after rocks, right? So that's the mentality here. Bullet Punch is for that +2 priority. A lot of times I'm living 1 hit, and I can SD, and then I can probably sweep with Bullet Punch, knock out whatever's in front of me, 2-hit KO whatever he wants to switch in and choose to sack, and then get a lot of damage off on the 1 mon he uses to try and KO me. It's again, punching holes in Sam's team, right? And then U-Turn is there for momentum. In combination with Volt Switch from Raikou, I invite in certain Pokemon that I can then bring Raikou in on, right? And threaten out with another Volt Switch, or especially if Electric Terrain is up, I can knock out with Thunderbolts, or go for a ridiculous Gigavolt Havoc. I can switch into my Reuniclus, right? Something is going to be taking physical hits really well from Mega Scizor. It probably isn't going to be taking special hits from Reuniclus really well. I give myself an opportunity to get up Trick Room and start sweeping through his team. I can potentially, switch into Tapu Bulu depending on what he wants to go into. It's, again, momentum. Momentum is going to be really important in this match, and I might have to pull some doubles at times, just because that's the nature of offense, and I might need to get Reuniclus in on a threat so that I can get off a free Trick Room. Superpower is there specifically for Snorlax. I can beat Curselax 1v1 if he's cursing up and I have SD and Superpower. I think even if he's 1 boost ahead of me, if he's cursed on my switch-in, I can still SD twice or SD once, and I think 2-hit KO him with Superpower, even incorporating my defense drops. Or my attack loss or drop after the original Superpower. So yeah, definitely worth considering there. If he does decide to rest up on me, and even if rain is up, I for sure take on whatever is going on, because I take returns all day. But he would really need Fire Punch to hit me, so I don't think he's going to necessarily run Curselax. But if he does bring Curselax, I do beat it 1v1 with SD and Superpower. So that's why that's there. But yeah, again, hyper offense, definitely stepping outside the comfort zone. Definitely need to for a great opponent like Sam. It's going to be a fast-paced match. It is going to be one where mons are dropping like flies. Whoever has momentum is going to be punching holes in the other person's team. And so I'm going to be doing my best with Volt Switch and U-Turn, and then eventually pulling doubles to make sure my threats are in on mons that won't be able to OHKO them, and then we'll be able to OHKO them back and potentially set up Trick Room in the process, or gain a bunch of HP with Horn Leech in the process. And if I lose my Trick Room mode, well, then I have my faster mons like Raikou, and I have my Scarf Garchomp to help out, and I have my priority in Bullet Punch from Scizor. And priority is going to be, getting up rocks really early so I can chip away at things, and then start smacking away. So should be a really good match. I hope you guys are excited for it too. Again, good luck to Sam in the battle. I'm really nervous for it, but I am looking forward to it. Like I said, I always look forward to playing Sam, probably more so than anyone else in the league. So I really hope it's a good match. I really hope it's a fun one, and I'll see you guys in that battle. But until then, this has been Midnight Zero, and this mission is complete.